Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Pert.
Good morning, Earthlings. Good. How you doing today? Good. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Welcome to First Contact Radio. To talk about all these things I'm talking about is because in life, everything is energy. Every single thing that's out there.
Yo, it's First Contact with Joshua Poet. He's the man on the mic, just in case you didn't know it. Covering news from all around the globe, from the weather and space to UFOs. He'll talk politics and make you open your eyes. Conspiracy theories and government lies. They'll dig it all up and try to find the proof. Cause it's time to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We have
time to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We have
arrived. To demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio.
It's time to demand
First Contact Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio. Good morning, Earthlings. Welcome to the end to First Contact Radio. We've made it to the end of a week, or welcome to the end of the week, either one. Okay, today is the 27th of June. We've come to the last Friday in the month of June. We have a new moon. It's a new moon in Cancer. Cancer is a water sign. Water sign is emotions, love, which is certainly very, very powerful. One of the most powerful energies we have available to us. But emotions is the thing we're dealing with, and water is the element that we're dealing with. And so when we travel through water, we want to make sure we're not going to get wet. If our objective is to keep dry, and we want to be able to protect ourselves, in other words, from all of the emotions that are out there, because we all have a lot of emotions within ourselves, and if we don't have a way to control them, if we just let them out, all at once, it can be a bit overwhelming. And so we have to learn how to control those. Those emotions are also the things that are affected, and it's like our buttons are getting pushed by them. So that's why we have the charioteer who wears the armor. So we had a conjunct that went on between the sun and the moon earlier at 3:08 a.m. Pacific time. So that means our moon sign of Cancer was right next to our sun sign, which is also in Cancer. So we're just kind of hanging out together. We just had a little more than an hour, 2 hours ago, we had a trine, which is just going into effect between Neptune and the moon. So we have Cancer and Neptune. So Cancer we know of as a water sign. Well, Neptune is also a water sign. Neptune has to do with taking a new perspective on things. So that's what this is all about. Whenever Neptune comes up, Neptune represents illusionary things. As a matter of fact, I'll show you the Neptune card in a moment. The Neptune represents illusionary things, looking through illusions. And that combined with the water element here, we've got a lot of water to look through. But the Neptune says take a new perspective, look at things differently. And we have a trine to not force us, but to put us in a good position to be able to do that. Such a real good thing, good opportunity available to look at things from a new perspective, look at the way our feelings are operating in the world, look at the way that we feel about the things in the world. And then, of course, the moon is also in another aspect later, in opposition to Pluto. And this takes place later this afternoon about 4:40 p.m. So that moon sign is going to oppose the sign of transformation, this planet of transformation here. So the emotions are going to be opposite all of that Scorpio energy. Scorpio is the sign that Pluto is dealing with. We're not going to be in Scorpio, but Pluto. So nonetheless, it's that deep transformative energy of change that is out there in opposition to the emotional body of us. Okay, so when things are opposite, sometimes they're a good balance. Sometimes they're challenges, lessons. Over the weekend we have a Cancer moon, and on Sunday it's going to make a transition into Leo. So mainly water, We're going to go to fire at the end of the whole deal. Now our numerology for today is the number 4. Here's how we arrived at that number. By now you should have this down pat. 6 plus 27 plus the year. So that's 6 and 9 and 7, 22. I would keep it as a 22, but different systems like to break it down further. 2 and 2 equals 4. So that would be the numerology of the day. If we look at the 4 here, 4, as you know, is the Emperor. This is the tarot card. Fundamental meaning of the 4th key is reason. The key is called the Emperor, and the Emperor is the one who oversees and controls. This is the basic function of reason, for by it we supervise and control our daily activities. Vision is also attributed to this card and has a close connection with the faculty of reason when we consider reason as insight or mental vision. Physical sight is also meant here. The orange background is symbolic of the sun, source of the light by which means we are able to see. The mountain represents the fiery activity of Mars and Aries, which are the attributes of this key. Aries is also symbolized by the ram's head on the shoulders, and the throne in Mars by the steel armor with the Emperor is clad. The 12 points that ornament the helmet are also astrological. The globe is a conventional symbol of dominion. The globe and the cross, like the circle and the tau of the scepter, symbolize the masculine and feminine potencies of the radiant mental energy of the life force. The purple flaps over his armor hidden in his rulership, since purple is the color of royalty. Okay, so now we look at the different designations here. Okay, here's the Hebrew letter. Okay. Alright, let's go look at the Hangman. This is Neptune. So the key is full of meaning for an occultist. Its primary meaning is reversal. This refers to the reversal of thought or point of view held by those who know from that held by the unenlightened multitude. The adept realizes that his existence is dependent upon cosmic law. Another meaning of this card is suspended mind, which the Hindus name samadhi, in which exalted mental state of the aspirant reaches the divine consciousness of pure being. The letter mem means water or seas and refers to the root matter, as do the crescents and the upper garment. The gallows is in the shape of the letter ta, key 21. Its 12 lobed branches are the 12 signs of the zodiac. The edging of the jacket with the belt form a cross and a circle, symbolic of the positive and negative modes of life expression. The white hair and the halo about the head suggest the hangman is the embodiment of the one light. The entire figure represents a pendulum at rest. He is unmoved and immovable, because he realizes that no person ever thinks, moves, or acts of himself, but simply expresses the thought, motion, and action of the one identity. Hebrew letter mem means water. Okay, so this kind of gives us some idea, and if we look at the placements of these things, we know the hangman is right over here. It's got its head down in the intellect, an area of the mind, feet up in severity. Emperor is over here. And back to the heart, from the wisdom to beauty. Okay. Alright, our current moon phase is a new moon. New moons are good times to begin new projects. We're still dealing with a Mercury retrograde. That will be over on Tuesday. If we look up at the sky, it says this is the time of the year when at the end of dusk, the dim little dipper, Ursa Minor, floats straight upward from Polaris, the end of its handle like a helium balloon on a string. Escape from some summer evening party. Look due north. Through light pollution, all you may see is a little dipper, or Polaris at one end of Kochab. Little lip of the Little Dipper's bowl above it at the other. Alright. Mayan Oracle is a 6-tone day. 6 tones are called the rhythmic tone of equality. So we're in this position here, the theme of the eagle, the theme of vision. So we're at the rhythmic part of the vision. Today the symbol and the guide are the same as they are whenever there's a 6, and today it's the sun. The sun is about enlightenment. It lights up our life. We are enlightened by the sun. The phrase is, I organize in order to enlighten balancing life. I seal the matrix of universal fire with the rhythmic tone of equality. I am guided by my own power doubled. At space weather, our solar wind is 325.3 kilometers per second. Planetary K index is quiet. Got a few scattered coronal holes, some of which are going to be sending wind our direction. Tells us around the 28th to the 29th, so that'll be over this weekend. M-class flare possibilities at 1. X-class is also at 1. And geomagnetic storm activity is low, but it seems to be picking up slightly in the next 24 to 48 hours. And on the Jewish calendar, today would be a 29 Sivan. And the daily thought for today is just as it is a mitzvah to direct someone onto a path where he belongs, so too it is a crime to direct someone onto a path that does not belong to him. Each person is born with a path particular to his or her soul, generally occurring according to the culture into which he or she was born. There are universal truths, the inheritance of all of us since Adam and Noah. In them, we are all united, but we are not meant to all be the same. Our differences are as valuable to our Creator as our similarities. Very good. Good insight. That gets us started for today. UFO news is up next. Let's get to it.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk. Thank you very much. First sighting takes us to Calgary, Canada, June 20th. Object in question looks sphere-like from that particular angle. This is an intriguing UFO. It partly cloaked several times in the video. Do not assume that it's changing shape. Big misconception. It's just the cloak activates when there is a blue background. Notice the photo below. The UFO is in a white cloud. However, the top 20% of the UFO is missing, and there is a partial blue background on that part. The eyewitness said I trimmed the footage just to show the orb. Others that were rimmed were finding the camera before the shot. There it is. And a video to support all of this. The video is 36 seconds. Right in the middle we could see the object in question. There it is right here, coming in. It's right here. It's a good shot. Definitely a good shot. Okay, unknown lights hovering above Murrieta, California, June 25th. These unknown lights are hovering in the sky above Murrieta, a city in southwestern Riverside County, California. Recorded on the 25th of June. 59-second video. So we got something up in the pretty good shot. Lots of bright lights there, huh? Alright, very interesting. That's a good shot. Okay, educating humanity. It says UFO Hunter Mojo's personal comments. Fortunate to have the personal experience of contact and witness to at least 3 different types. Feel the sightings in Oregon have been from a group studying and observing. I was lucky enough to have the efforts pay off for the many hours of sky watching. Yet when it comes to the aerial displays, it's difficult to distinguish them from ours. I had to focus on the subtleties in the video. hopefully accomplished a small degree of what analysis and towards a future evidence to disclosure. What does the possibility of UFO reacting mean? Well, here are 10 examples from the archive to help support. Alright, so what we have here is a nice little, it says reaction suggests ET, involvement with ET or multidimensional presence and not military or black ops. Okay, and so we have 4-minute 37-second video. I'm just kind of reviewing a number of different UFOs that have taken place. So it's a nice little compilation. Some night vision shots for you here. Okay, so it's very evident for everyone who's watching, paying attention. Something is going on up there. All we have to do is look, and hey, there they are. Witness has bizarre feeling before UFO cloaks and disappears. An Ohio witness at Lakewood reported watching a triangle-shaped UFO with 3 lights that seemed to cloak itself on June 25th, according to the witness testimony in the MUFON database. The witness was sitting outside the house with 2 friends when the object was first seen. My friend's wife all of a sudden said, "What's that?" The witness stated, "I looked up and saw an object with 3 lights start to dim, and it looked like it started to cloak. It had a weird aura around it, and it looked kind of like it was surrounded by water, and it started to disappear. I could see what looked like a black craft, but it happened so fast that I can't say for sure what color it was." His friend's wife then had a second experience. She saw 3 bright reddish-orange lights in the formation of a triangle in between the trees, and she said she followed it until it went behind the house. She said that she saw the same weird cloaking effect that I saw. The witness said he felt odd just before and after the event. "I remember feeling a very weird sensation in my body right before." She said that's that. Of course, I had some anxiety afterwards, but the feeling I had right before I saw it was different. Alright. Here's one and claims, says another crop circle from the 22nd of June. We might have seen this one. Did we? Avebury, Wiltshire. Okay. Very simple one. 1, 2, 3 major rings. Well, 4 if we count this, 5 if we count that, 6 if we have the middle one. I don't know what this is, if that's a person or not. Alright, and moving from here, one more story. This is part 2 of a story. It comes to us from UFO Digest. I read the first part yesterday. The Anunnaki and the New World Authority by Steve Erdman. This is part 2. It says Thomas detailed the Anunnaki presence in Mesopotamia going back hundreds of thousands of years. These objects include the Sumerian king lists, engraved in clay tablets and cylinder seals that have been recovered by archaeologists from buried Mesopotamian cities. The king's list records a history of each individual ruler in Mesopotamian cities extending back in time and consecutively uninterrupted for almost 400,000 years. Thomas examined a post-deluge period where the Anunnaki biological knowledge helped jumpstart the rejuvenation in Sumer. The chief goal was to reestablish intelligent life with sentient beings, and then at some point after this was accomplished to depart. Cro-Magnon man rule was a matrix of distorted history and the gradual inventions of Eastern and Western religions. The Israelites appeared to be a favorite in the Anunnaki experiment. Anunnaki-infused rituals, such as the commandments given by Moses on Mount Sinai. Thomas claimed that they would intervene from time to time. In the historical epoch, 2000 BC to 500 BC, diversity in religious belief began to expand. Religion was the main means of passing knowledge from one generation to the next, said Thomas. In the absence of the Anunnaki, there was no central authority to keep the true story of human creation intact. The priests only knew secret records and codes. The vast earthly population was illiterate. A certain amount of religious conformity holds remnants of truth. Many nations devolved, becoming more harsh and cruel. Slavery was prominent. Thomas saw that the most early historical truths, as laden and distorted by religion, Catholicism seemed to have been the biggest culprit. The reality of reincarnation and the unfiltered teachings of Jesus were components of distortion and censorship. By declaring Gnosis teaching a heresy, enabled some of the most important knowledge to remain hidden and exclusive. All that remained underneath the pompous, self-serving pageantry and glorified presentation was an empty shell. Other modern and scientific critics, however, dismissed Sitchin and the Anunnaki promulgators as poor and even bad historians, and scientists did not devote the time or energy to examine the true context of historical and social myth. These critics found no paranormal conditions alluding to space people, but only to a pantheon of mythical gods and goddesses from nature. The authors, the ancients, were not the dark and the dumb rabble commonly portrayed. They were in fact highly advanced. As such, they developed over a period of many thousands of years a complex astrological system that incorporated the moments and the qualities of numerous celestial bodies, which could be called the celestial mythos. Thomas explored the major religions, with only a few surviving with noble truths. The Baha'i religion, said Thomas, appeared moderately humane. All religions grew out of Egyptian and Sumerian history. He further examined the fallacies and shortcomings of Darwinism. The biggest error in Darwinism was biogenesis. Many Darwinists refused to accept the existence of a universal mind or consciousness behind the formulation of all matter in the universe. Matter, said Thomas, initially formed as a manifestation of mind. We need to think of God as a primary source of all creativity and intelligent, animating life force. Thomas debated not only the scientific accusations of Darwin, but the legal aspects as well. His book stood on two most important concepts. One, there is a concept of our universe which consists of a cosmic mind that was in existence at the creation of the universe, and the cosmic mind is the originator and the force which brought the existence of biological life, or DNA, into material existence. The existence of universal intelligence, UI, unfolded by natural theories passed through quantitative physics. Adjunct the science was the science of cosmology. Thomas pointed to Albert Einstein as one of the great cosmologists. Not unlike Jesus in his parables, he maintained the capacity to see unique parallels between the observational science and the problems and conditions of society. The remainder of the book forged inroads into the latest findings of the modern science, which Thomas sees as our largest salvation that could lead into adventures into the vastness of the universe. Likewise, Thomas believed science would eventually confirm mind-body dualism. The only element that could destroy such a progress is human ignorance, bigotry, and dishonesty. Combining the newest understanding and implications of quantum physics, specifically non-local entanglement and its connection to the evidence in support of existence of morphic fields, is both logical and a matter of common sense, said Thomas. He asserted 5 levels of civilization: 0, or Earth prior to 1957; planetary, which is Earth 1957, post-1957 with space travel to nearby planets; solar and galactic. The Anunnaki were most likely a galactic civilization. Earth is presently a 0 civilization, now first lipping into the planetary. The only thing that prevents us from the future progress is basic evil attributes that may destroy or prevent us. In the meantime, Thomas has taken us as an overview of some of the latest scientific and human accomplishments. Dr. Anton Zellinger of the University of Vienna, Bell's theory physicist Arthur Eddington, nanotechnology computer scientist Ray Kurzweil, artificial life forms, Professor David Deamer of California, terraforming Mars, and a new worldwide convertible society republic. This republic, said Thomas, will take into account, compensate for, and prevent the present evils of the world and into the future. That's pretty interesting. Alright, so there you go. That's our UFO news The links are all available if you want to recheck anything that you heard or saw. I'll be right back, and we're going to continue on with more. Stay tuned.
Come into our circle, Great Spirit. Fill our souls with peace.
Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to take a look at the book of Urantia, and we're going to continue our discussion about Jesus, as we're going to do on each Friday. And there's a lot more stuff in the book of Urantia here that isn't in the Bible. Here is a section on parables. Last week we did the parable of the sower. Today we're going to do this more about parables. We're just going to continue on. The whole of the evening after the discussions respecting the parable of the sower was devoted to the further consideration of parables. Jesus directed the discussion. At the close of the conference, Jesus presented an additional thought to the parable of the sower, dealing with the man who planted good seed in his garden. The apostles were parable-minded, so much so that the whole of the next evening was devoted to further discussion of parables. Jesus introduced the evening's conference by saying, "My beloved, why must you always make a difference in teaching so as to suit your presentation of truth to the minds and the hearts before you? When you stand before a multitude of varying intellects and temperaments, you cannot speak different words for each class of the hearts, but you can tell a story to convey your teaching. In each group, even each individual will be able to make his own interpretation of the parable in accordance with his own intellectual and spiritual endowments. You are to let your light shine, but to do so with wisdom and discretion. No man, when he lights a lamp, cover it up with a vessel or puts it underneath the bed. He puts his lamp on a stand where all can behold the light. Let me tell you that nothing is hidden in the kingdom of heaven which shall not be made manifest. Neither are there any secrets which shall not ultimately be made known. Eventually all of these things shall come to light. Think not only of the multitudes and how they hear the truth. Take heed also to yourselves how you hear. Remember that I have many times told you, to him who has shall be given more, while from him who has not shall be taken away even that which he thinks he has." The continued discussion of parables and further instruction as to their interpretation may be summarized and expressed in modern phraseology as follows. 1. Jesus advised against the use of either fables or allegories in teaching the truths of the gospel. He did recommend the free use of parables, especially nature parables. He emphasized the value of utilizing the analogy existing between the natural and the spiritual worlds as a means of teaching truth. He frequently alluded to the natural as the unreal and fleeting shadows of spirit realities. And 2. Jesus narrated 3 or 4 parables from the Hebrew Scriptures, calling attention to the fact that this method of teaching was not wholly new. However, it became almost a new method of teaching as he employed it from this time onward. And 3, in teaching the apostles the value of the parables, Jesus called attention to the following points. The parable provides for the simultaneously appeal to vastly different levels of mind and spirit. The parable simulates the imagination, challenges the discrimination, and provokes critical thinking. It promotes sympathy without arousing antagonism. The parable proceeds from the things which are known to the discernment of the unknown. The parable utilizes the material and the natural as a means of introducing the spiritual and the supermaterial. Parables favor the making of impartial moral decisions. The parable evades much prejudice and puts new truth gracefully in the mind, and does this with the arousal of the minimum of self-defense of personal resentment. To reject the truth contained in parabolic analogy requires conscious intellectual action, which is directly in contempt of one's honest judgment and fair decision. The parable concludes to the forcing of thought through the sense of hearing. The use of the parable form of teaching enables the teacher to present new and even startling truths, while at the same time he largely avoids all controversy and outward clashing with tradition and established authority. The parable also possesses the advantage for stimulating the memory of the truth taught when the same familiar scenes are subsequently encountered. In this way, Jesus sought to acquaint his followers with many of the reasons underlying his practice of increasingly using parables in his public teaching. Towards the close of the evening's lessons, Jesus made his first comment on the parable of the sower. He said that the parable referred to two things. First, it was a review of his own ministry up to that time, and a forecast of what lay ahead of him for the remainder of his life on earth. And second, it would also a hint as to what the apostles and other messengers of the kingdom might expect in their ministry from generation to generation as time passed. Jesus also resorted to the use of parables as the best possible refutation of the studied effort of the religious leaders of the Jerusalem to teach that all of his work was done by the assistance of demons and prince of devils. The appeal to nature was in contravention of such teaching, since the people of that day looked upon all natural phenomena as the product of the direct act of the spiritual beings and the supernatural forces. He also determined upon this method of teaching because it enabled him to proclaim vital truths to those who desired to know the better way, while at the same time avoiding his enemies less opportunity to find cause for offense and accusations against him. Before he dismissed the group for the night, Jesus said, "Now will I tell you the last of the parable of the sower. I would test you to know how you would receive this. The kingdom of heaven is also like a man who cast good seed upon the earth. And while he slept at night and went about his business by day, the seed sprang up and grew. And although he knew not of how it came about, the plant came to fruit. First there was the blade, then the ear, and then the full grain in the ear. And when the grain was ripe, he would put forth the sickle, and the harvest was finished. He who has ear, let him hear." All right. Let's jump into this next one. More parables by the sea. Following the presentation of the parable of the sower, Jesus gave a discourse sprinkled with short parables. The next day Jesus again taught the day from the boat, saying, "The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while he slept, his enemy carried the sowed wheats among the wheat and hastened away. And so when the young blades sprang up and the latter were about to bring forth fruit, there appeared also the weeds. When the servant of his household came, he said to him, 'Sir, did you not sow good seed in your field? Whence then came these weeds?' And he replied to his servants, 'An enemy has done this.' The servant, when he asked their master, 'Would you have us go out to the field and pick up these weeds?' But he answered them and said, 'No, lest while you are gathering up the root, you uproot the weed also. Rather let them both grow together until the time of the harvest, when I will say to the reapers, Gather up first the weeds, and then bind them in bundles and burn them, and then gather up the wheat to be stored in my barn.'" After the people had asked a few questions, Jesus spoke another parable. "The kingdom of heaven is like a grain of mustard seed which the man sowed in the field. Now a mustard seed is the least of seeds, but when it is full grown, it becomes the greatest of all herbs, and is like a tree, so that the birds of heaven are able to come and rest in the branches thereof. The kingdom of heaven is also like leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meal, and in this way came about that all of the meal was leavened. The kingdom of heaven is also like a treasure hidden in a field, which a man discovered in his joy, he went forth to sell all he had, that he might have the money to buy the field. The kingdom of heaven is also like a merchant seeking godly pearls, and having found one pearl of great price, he went out and sold everything he possessed, that he might be able to buy the extraordinary pearl. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a sweep net, which was cast into the sea, and it gathered up every kind of fish. Now when the net was filled, the fishermen drew it up onto the beach, where they sat down and sorted out the fish, gathering the good into vessels, while the bad they threw away. Many other parables spoke Jesus to the multitudes. In fact, from this time forward, he seldom taught the masses except by this means. After speaking to a public audience in parables, he would, during the evening classes, more fully and explicitly expound his teachings to the apostles and to the evangelists. Okay, so there you have it. Jesus and a couple of his parables. Those are a couple of good ones. And you could see the effectiveness of telling stories in this way. And as he told the stories, the parables, it really helped those to understand, because there is, just like there is now, there is censorship that takes place. There was certainly censorship during the time when Jesus was around, during the time when the Bible was being written. And so for this way, teachers would speak in different ways so as to protect themselves, to protect the others. You just can't sometimes tell somebody something and they're going to get it. Sometimes people like to come to an understanding that they figured it out for themselves, so you leave them clues, and that's kind of what the parables did. It allowed people to come to their own conclusion, and they would do so by putting together the different pieces of the puzzle, all the bits and pieces, and when they did so, because they came to it what appeared on their own terms, they understood it a little better. You know how that works. It works with all of us when we're able to figure things out. It's better than someone just telling us, because if someone just tells us, it's one thing, but when we dig in and we really learn, it's something completely different. All right, here's an article from In5D. Says scientific proof our DNA is mutating, from Greg Prescott. Imagine being able to activate your dormant junk DNA. In recent news, scientists and geneticists have discovered 3- and 4-strand DNA in human cells, while some geneticists believe we may soon evolve to a 12-strand DNA. To those who may dismiss this theory, an article entitled "Spontaneous Evolution Has Arrived." A child was recently born with 3-strand DNA in England. It says a British toddler became the first person in the world to be born with an extra strand in his DNA, in a condition so rare doctors don't even know his name. Alfie Clamp from Warwickshire, Northern England, has a 7th chromosome which has an extra arm. It says Dr. Brenda Fox is a holistic practitioner of the Avalon Wellness Center in Mount Shasta, California. In an interview with Patrick Raish, Dr. Fox stated the following. It says, what are the changes that are happening at this time on the planet, and how are our bodies being affected? Dr. Fox said there are major changes, mutations, that haven't occurred according to geneticists since the time we supposedly came out of water. Several years in Mexico City, there was a convention of geneticists from around the world, and the main topic was DNA change. We are making an evolutionary change, yet we don't know what we are changing into. How is our DNA changing? It says everyone has a double helix of DNA. What we are finding is that there are other helixes that are being formed. In the double helix, there are 2 strands of DNA coiled into a spiral. It is my understanding that we will be developing 12 helixes. During this time, which seems to have started maybe 25 to 20 years ago, we have been mutating. This is the scientific explanation. It is a mutation of our species into something for which the end result is not yet known. The changes are not known publicly because the scientific community feels it would frighten the population. However, people are changing to a cellular level. I am working with 3 children right now who have 3 DNA helixes. Most people know and feel this. Many religions talk about changes and know how it will come about in different ways. We know it is a positive mutation, even though physically, mentally, emotionally it can be misunderstood and frightening. Are these children displaying any characteristics different from our other children? So that these children can move objects across the room just by concentrating on them, or they can fill glasses of water just by looking at them. They're telepathic. You'd almost think by knowing that these children that they are half angelic or superhuman, but they're not. I think what they are growing into the next few decades. I think they are what we are growing into the next few decades. He said, do you think this will happen to all of us? It seems that most people who were born before 1940 have not been able to make this shift, but they initiated something into the next generation that gives them the capacity to form another helix within our lifetime. Our immune and endocrine systems are the most evident of these changes. This is one of the reasons I work with research in immunological testing and therapy. Some adults that I have tested do have another DNA helix forming. Some are even getting their third. These people are going through a lot of major shifts in their consciousness and physical bodies because it is all one. In my opinion, the earth and everything here is raising its vibration. Many of the children born recently have bodies that are magnetically lighter. So what are the changes we should expect to see? Well, there will be no disease. We will not need to die. We will be able to learn our lessons, not through suffering, but through joy and love. The old system has to crumble away and is not doing that without putting up a big fight. So you have all the wars, and a lot of medical type of healing is not working. The government is not working. Dr. Fritz Albert Pop's research confirmed the existence of biophotons, which are the particles of light with no mass that transmit information within and between cells. Dr. Pop discovered that the coherent emission of the biophotons is connected to energy and information transfer processes in the biological organisms and has been linked to the function of DNA and to gene regulation. In simpler terms, our bodies not only emit light, but they also store light within the DNA. A living cell requires energy not only for all of its functions, but also for the maintenance of its structure. Without energy, life would be extinguished instantaneously and the cellular fabric would collapse. The source of this energy is the sun's radiation. So is a quote from Nobel Peace Prize recipient and Hungarian biochemist Albert von Szent-Györgyi. Says the eyes are precisely where the solar radiation that feeds life enters the body. Johann Boswinkel. Okay, so what we've got here is we've got a lot more. I'm just going to move forward towards the end of the article here. But it has some, showing that the mainstream media is referring to these things. You see, bits and pieces dropped in from time to time. In Science article on NBC, researchers found 4-strand DNA is also lurking in human cells. Dr. Peter Garev's research into DNA concluded DNA may be multi-language of spirituality. Adding wave genetics shows that DNA functions like a holographic computer, part of a larger hologram of the information wave reality. Dr. Masaru Emoto's research concluded that water has consciousness. Based on its premise, I've decided to experiment with water. Ho'oponopono signals and positive affirmations. On February 12, I started drinking distilled water as recommended by Andrew Norton Weber. I also drastically changed my eating habits from the typical processed food, GMO-laden diet to virtually all organic, including grass-fed, meat-fed, fresh squeezed juices, and homemade smoothies. Initially, I noticed immediate change in my complexion as well as my energy levels, but after 7 months or so, I noticed I was losing my hair and wondered if this was attributed to drinking distilled water. So I stopped doing this, but soon something amazing happened. After the researchers of benefits of ozone water decided to buy an ozone generator to infuse my water with extra oxygen. In addition, as per se, Dr. Emoto's research into the consciousness of water, I added affirmations and ho'oponopono, which is just simply a Hawaiian code of forgiveness where you say, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you. And then the affirmations where my pineal gland is fully open, My chakras are clear and balanced. My DNA codes are open to allow me to help myself and others in the best interest of humanity. And then I decided to take one step further after reaching the power of sigils. The sigil is an inscribed or painted symbol considered by many to have magical powers. Many corporate logos are symbols in a way to subconsciously influence us. A perfect example would be the shell logo, which innocently looks like a shell, but it actually represents the sun and sun worshippers, which pre-existed before religion's belief systems. They use symbols and sigils as a way to represent Saturn. In astrotheology, Saturn is Satan. Did you ever wonder why we exchange rings during wedding ceremonies? The ring represents the rings of Saturn or Satan. Look no further than pre-Christian Christmas time celebrations of Saturnalia, which was a week of debauchery and drunkenness. In this world of polarity and duality, the same practices can be done with pure intent. I decided to make a signal glass that contained all of my affirmations. This is what it looks like. I buy 5-gallon jugs of BPA-free water from SaLuSa and diffuse it with a water cooler. I have an ozone machine. Okay, it says many people are hearing high-pitched frequencies that are not associated with tinnitus or vitamin D deficiency. Some of the change that's taking place. In the last part of the article says science has proven that our DNA is evolving. In order to keep the status quo, it is possible that our vaccinations are working as inhibitors to deter this process. Despite the vaccinations, GMOs, and chemtrails, is it possible that our DNA will continue to evolve into a higher form of consciousness? Only time will tell. We know today that man, especially a being of light, and the modern science of photobiology is presently proving this. In terms of healing, the implications are immense. We now know, for example, that quanta of light can initiate or arrest cascade-like reactions in the cells, and that genetic cellular damage can be virtually repaired within hours by faint beams of light. We're still on the threshold of fully understanding the complex relationship between light and life, but we can now say emphatically that the function of our entire metabolism is dependent on light. Alright, very good article. A lot more to read. Links available, First Contact Radio. It'll take you to their site at In5D where you can catch the whole article. This is a message today from SaLuSa.
SaLuSa, June 27, 2014. The changes continue to proceed as planned, and will bring about the anticipated changes that will bring you freedom from the activities of the Dark Ones. Their power and control carries less weight, and those who work for the light are gaining more confidence as each day passes. So much good work is taking place, and, as it continues to spread, the Dark Ones find that they are having less and less influence. It is you, the people, that carry the responsibility for spreading the light, but we can assist where you have already made decisions to begin the process of change. Do not worry if at first progress appears to be slow, as momentous changes cannot be achieved overnight, and are more likely to be successful when care and attention are given. We oversee your work and at all times will do our best to guide you, and ensure your success. More and more souls are awakening to their real selves and seeking more power to achieve their vision of permanent peace upon Earth. It will come and is already affecting decisions being made to prevent any future wars from taking place. The role of the Lightworker is to be inspired, and bring more people to the realization that the future is taking shape, and the voices that have influence are no longer prepared to go along with those who advocate war to solve problems. At long last it is being realized that war is futile, and that there are no winners in the sense that all who are involved suffer loss of one kind or another. When you look back, you will realize that using war to achieve your aims is often short-lived, and at last there is an understanding that peaceful negotiation is the only way to solve differences. As you will find out in due course, wars are often contrived to set one against another, and neither benefit as a result. As time has passed, more and more people have tired of being used to settle differences, and now see that there are other ways which are far more acceptable. You are currently seeing the result of religious prejudice fuel the differences between some nations, and we wish we could get the message to them that you are all one. There is only one God of absolute love for all souls regardless of their color or beliefs. However, there will come a time when it will be accepted that you are one race, with the same destiny and eternally loved by the one God of all. The elusive peace that you seek will first come to individuals who have accepted the oneness of all souls, and through them others will also follow. All knowledge is carried within, and those of you who feel particularly intuitive are able to measure the value and truthfulness of any message. There will however still be those who totally rely on others to walk the path with them. For them it is part of their necessary experience, and as they become more understanding of the truth of their real selves, they will gain the confidence to travel their own path. Often the changes are the result of many lives whereby they have tested their own beliefs and have moved on where they have been found wanting. As you stand at this time, you represent the totality of your experience, and cannot help but be strongly influenced by it. There are however times when you will incarnate with a stronger attachment to certain beliefs that will give you a specific experience that you need. You are in fact much greater than you presently know, and whilst on earth you play out each role you have undertaken, which can greatly vary from one incarnation to another. You may have wondered what our beliefs are based upon, and whether we have what you know as organized religion. The simple answer is that we are sufficiently understanding of the truth and the one God, that we live by example and realize that every other soul is either our brother or sister. Therefore our love is extended to all souls, and even those of the darkness are seen as being exactly the same as all others. It must be so, as you have all come from the source of all that is, and undertaken your experiences so as to bring the truth to others. Where you are now in the lower levels of vibration, you cannot become fully ascended and remain in them, so of necessity you only incarnate with a vibration that allows you to experience as chosen. We will also point out that this is why you must respect what other souls have chosen to experience, as it is all of value and will help others to evolve. Some souls have elected to serve on earth to help others, whilst the majority are traveling their paths as they work their way back to the higher dimensions. There is not, as you say, a quick fix, and the only positive way to evolve is through personal experience, although you can also learn from others who have gone before you. Mother Earth is also taking part in the changes, and these are of a grand scale to prepare for those that will change the very surface of the Earth. Of necessity there will be unavoidable upheaval in some places, but you rest assured that every caution will be taken to avoid loss of life. Some are inevitable, but there are also souls that have expressed a desire to leave the earth. It may sound strange or unlikely that souls would choose to leave in such a way, but release from the physical body is instantaneous. Any trauma associated with such an experience is soon overcome and forgotten. Death is such as painless, but is often thought differently, and this is usually due to an accompanying illness. Understanding the truth of such an experience as death prevents what is otherwise looked upon by many as a traumatic time in your life. Be assured that as soon as you pass over, your loved ones will be there to greet you and make you welcome. Perhaps the most welcome surprise is that you are whole again, and through the power of thought can also become a young person again, full of health and without any of the problems you may have had whilst on earth. I am SaLuSa from Sirius, and have today touched upon life in the higher dimensions, which is far removed from what you have experienced upon earth. Can you imagine an existence where within certain limitations you can think things into existence, therefore money is not needed? That is perhaps the most significant change, although as mentioned above, the prospect of permanent good health must be music to the ears of those who have had a life of ill health. You have so much to look forward to, so do your best while still on earth. I leave you with my love and blessings. Thank you, SaLuSa. Mike Quincy.
Alright, very nice message. Very nice message. So let's use some of those ideas in our meditation today. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and exhale. Take another deep breath, and exhale again. And one more. Imagine yourself walking along the path of life. And you have lots of thoughts in your head. And as you think these thoughts and begin to focus on each one of them, you notice that that life that thought becomes a reality. And sometimes the reality of this thought is good because it's something we want, but sometimes it's something we don't want. And we go back to our thoughts and realize that if we can manifest whatever we think about, then we need to focus on the good that we want, so we don't bring into existence the bad things as well. So we get our thoughts clear first and foremost. So imagine yourself clearing out your thoughts. Shake your head. Shake out all of those negative thoughts. See yourself filled with light and love, and then just let those pure thoughts from the place of light and love manifest. And as you begin to travel through the world and you manifest the things that you want, you find that your desire for needing to have more goes away, because you know that you have all that you could ever need whenever you need it. So just imagine yourself going through the world knowing that everything you have is available to you right here, right now. And just keep contemplating that idea and bring that reality into existence. And contemplate the words of this affirmation. I am a powerhouse. I am indestructible. So imagine yourself a powerful being, a powerhouse of energy, an indestructible soul, manifesting into life the beauty and the harmony that comes from within. And imagine the world becoming a better place as one by one souls across the planet manifest love and light and harmony, while at the same time the darkness and the negativity, the fear and the doubt all dissipates. And little by little, one person at a time, the world changes until it is completely changed, filled with positivity, love, and all the other good things. Imagine this. Ask yourself, do you deserve to have this and live on this kind of planet? And then claim that for yourself as absolutely you do. We do. Now take another deep breath. And set your subconscious mind on its journey to continue just looking for all the blessings in life, all of the abundance that is in our lives. And let's bring our conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to this present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to this present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to this present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take another deep breath. Exhale and open your eyes. That's it, my friends. That's our show for this day and for the week. Summer is upon us now. Enjoy your summer. This is the first weekend of summer we have, so go out and have a good time. Wait, no, last weekend was. See, I'm behind already. Enjoy the weekend. I'll be back Monday with more news and information. Until then, be safe. Keep loving each other. I'm out of here. Peace.